Kanika, thank you for joining me to tear up the Good Girl script today. I'm so pleased to have you.
Honestly, it's something that instantly resonated with
So
me.
the Good Girl script is the one that is external to us. It's the one that we hear from other people. And essentially it says, you shouldn't be doing that because you're a girl.
I think there are two instances that really sort of instantly come to my mind. One is I remember being very young. I think I was like 6 or 7. And I was wearing a skirt or something. And somebody told me not to sit with my legs apart. And I was a child, right? And you don't even see yourself and as a person who could be sexualized to a certain extent because you're so young, you've not even the concept hasn't even entered your mind. But it was an adult who told me, you have to sit properly because you're a girl.
Wow.
And I just remember feeling very odd about that because I didn't see anything wrong with my anatomy that I had to be extra careful about something that a boy who was sitting next to me who was of the same age didn't have to care about. So that was one. And the other thing was, and this was once I was older, I was about, I think I was 11 or 12 years old. And it was one of my friend's mom who said that, girls shouldn't be out roughing themselves up like, and getting dark in the sun. Yeah. So because we used to be like this bunch of boisterous kids who would play in the sun all day.
That's both of, there are so many things, and both of those instances that you talked about, there is going to be so much that will resonate for women right across the world. The first instance of being so young and being made aware of thinking of your body in a way that you were innocent of, that had nothing to do with you. That's
Absolutely.
one, yeah. I mean, that's one of the key ways that we start to limit girls at a very, very young age. Can you remember a bit more about how you actually felt in that moment?
Yeah. I remember feeling very strange, because it was the first time that I felt like there was something wrong with me. I questioned myself to some extent because I wondered what was wrong with me that I was being told to be a certain way to be acceptable, whereas my boys who were the same age and my friends did not have to even give a thought to how they were sitting or what proper posture was for them or what the proper way to sit was for them. So there were these added rules that were coming my way and I just didn't understand why. So I and your instant sort of as a child your first thought is that somehow you have caused this, right?
Yes.
So you wonder what you have done to be receiving this kind of reprimanding.
Yeah, it's almost like you feel like you have done something wrong without knowing that you've done something wrong, and then you're being blamed for that. And it's a very strange, because like you say, your natural way of sitting at time, you were uninhibited. And then this girl instruction came up, be a good girl, sit this way, don't do that. It made you feel bad. And it sets up, I think, a questioning of yourself that then, in my experience, that questioning of self is something that then continues to play out through our lives. And it can
absolutely
in so many ways.
I feel like it changes the way women just occupy space, right? Because we're taught to just close ourselves and take up as little space as we need, and sometimes even less than that. And the reason I struggle with, and of course, there's been years of working on movement, on reclaiming my body to a large extent, yoga, of course, meditation, all of that has helped. But to be completely free in your body and free to, just stretch, to just explore every aspect of your being. And definitely, this has an impact on how we uh, unconsciously imbibe certain ways, and that seeps into not only our mindset, it seeps into our body language, it seeps into every aspect, into our aspirations, ambition, everything, right?
Absolutely, exactly. This is such great conversation, Kanika. Honestly, thank you. You really, this is going to be helpful to so many people.
I'm glad. Wow.
If we think about your career now, because one of the other reasons I wanted to invite you to be part of this series is that I saw that you've recently set up with 2 other women a project called Align Me, which, as I understand it, offers yogic well-being solutions. And I was very inspired by that, particularly that you guys have done this in this year. There's so much uncertainty, but what you 3 have done is that you've created a solution that helps people. And when I saw that, I thought, this is leadership. So with that in mind, if you think back about over your career, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you've faced in your professional life so far?
So I've had 2 sort of phases of my professional life. One, of course, was when I was working as a management consultant, and that was almost 7-8 years long. I would definitely go back to instances where, in particular, I felt microaggressions because I was a woman. I have felt men, mostly senior leadership, not give the same weightage to my opinions or my thoughts as much as they would to a male colleague. And it's really funny, even though I was working for a company that's very progressive, that's supposed to be extremely gender diverse, but it's really funny if you see the pyramid in terms of the organizational structure, there is women at the bottom, there is women at the middle, but suddenly at the top, there are no women. So what happens? It's almost like you're suddenly dropping off the ladder, the corporate ladder or whatever. And so I think one aspect that I struggled with was finding sufficient female role models in my corporate career, because I couldn't find enough women out there who I could look up to and be like, because men had a plethora of role models to look up to, my male colleagues. But I would see this one female who made it to partner, and that's it. And there were no other women. So I felt like that overall was a challenge in the wellness industry, and yoga being something so potent and powerful. A lot of people are starting to recognize the value of that, and sort of that respect and reverence carries through for the teacher as well. So culturally, I find that people are still very respectful of that. So I have found it to be such a deeply respectful space to be in. That said, there have been instances where outside of a closed environment like an ashram life or something like that, outside of that, I have found myself struggling with naming my worth and being able to stand up for what I deserve. So I have found, and this is true, right? Even in my corporate career, I would hesitate to negotiate an increment cycle. I would hesitate to negotiate a promotion that I felt I deserved and went to someone else. And so even in this space, when you're running your own business, there is some amount of hustle that is needed. Yeah. And even in a space like yoga, you need to have some amount of hustle, which I feel it becomes a little harder when you're a woman. But overall, the experience of working with women has been so beautiful and so powerful for me that, which is why, when the 3 of us got together, and we joke about this, but we're like, it's 3 female energies coming together. So it forms like a yantra, like an energy system, right? So it becomes all the more powerful. I find working with women so inspiring in every way, because they're not just about work. They're about fulfilling their creativity. They're about fulfilling their spiritual ambitions. They're all about fulfilling their emotional needs. They're all about, approaching life with a certain completeness, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. And, it's that approaching life with a completeness, that inclusiveness, that holistic approach that I think is going to be so helpful in making sure that the planet doesn't tip over the edge into destruction.
Absolutely.
But if you were to have, say, 3 top tips that you were to give to other women to pair up that good girl script and flourish as women, what would they be?
I would say first of all would be kind to yourself. We are so harsh with ourselves because we learn it. We pick it up from society, from our families, from our own mothers, from our everybody around us. We pick up so much criticism, and we somehow believe it and we internalize it. And we can be so harsh on ourselves. And this has been a personal journey for me to, really unlearn all of that. Negativity that I had built up around me for my own self. So be kind to yourself. That's the first and the most important thing. You might not be your mother's idea of a perfect girl. You might not be your dad's idea of his little princess. You might not be your grandmother's idea of how perfect you should be. But what's more important is that you're okay with who you are. And it sounds so cliched, but it's so true, Veena. And it's been so true in my own experience, because I feel like all my life I did, to a large extent, everything that was expected of me, and that, gets validated because you're getting appreciated from society, you're getting money, you're getting applauded, you're getting all of that. But if that is not leading to you being happy and fulfilled, it's not worth anything, because I felt that all of this led to me living what I felt was a very dishonest life, because I didn't feel true to what my innermost desires and passions were. So tear up that good girl script. You don't have to become a doctor, engineer. You don't have to get married by 27, 25, whatever it is. You don't have to do things according to what society or people around you are telling you. Yes, we live in society, but it is also very important that we do not forget ourselves as individuals in the process. So the first would be kind to yourself. The second would be, please don't be afraid. Please don't be afraid of what people will think. I spent almost a year in a completely loveless marriage, which had emotional abuse, which had verbal abuse, which had uh, zero sexual activity, or um, and I spent almost a year in a marriage where I was so unhappy, because I was just scared of what the world would think, that I couldn't be that person who was divorced so quickly after getting married. So because I was so afraid of how society would perceive me, or how my parents would be hurt, or what would my friends think, I spent a year in depression. I spent a year being miserable completely, till it one day clicked that I could just change things. If I'd made a mistake, I didn't have to stick by it. So the day I mustered up the courage to talk to my parents, and they said, just come home. There is no questions asked, just come home. Everything became so easy, because I let go of that idea of how I was supposed to live my life. And honestly, being divorced at 29 was the best thing in my life. Like, it has changed my life completely. It's been such a blessing that so you don't have to live by rules that you think govern society or your life. So let go of that. Don't be so afraid. Don't be afraid of what people will think. And the third will be, always prioritize yourself. So always give yourself that value, to your passions, to your whether it's your creative passion, whether it's your ambition, all of that. Give yourself that importance. We're constantly taught to step back, to sacrifice, to be the bigger person in some sense, as women mostly, because we should be the ones who are constantly cutting ourselves down to make other people more comfortable. So don't do that. Don't do that for the men in your life. Don't do that for anyone. Don't make yourself any less than who you are. Don't make yourself feel less or act less because you want someone else to feel bigger. It doesn't have to come at the cost of you feeling less. You can empower people around you without diminishing yourself. So that's what I want to say. So,
this is explosively powerful and helpful. And I really want to appreciate and acknowledge your openness and in sharing your story, because, you know, when we share our own stories, it can feel like, well, it's just my little story. I don't know if, you know, I don't know how it's going to help others, but I can guarantee you that this is going to be so powerful for so many women. And thank you for sharing.
I'm so glad. Wow. Thank you so much, Veena. I'm so glad. And honestly, I didn't plan on sharing all of this. It just came out because you gave me that safe space to just be candid and open about this. And if this helps anyone out there, I would be so, so deeply grateful for that.
Thank you, Kanika. Honestly,
Oh, wow.
that's possibly the most powerful interview I've done so far.